and it weren't subject to interest. Why does money have to come from a bank at all? Since when is the bank the rightful issue of your promissory note to another of us? You know, these questions have answers, and they're not giving them. And the reason they're not giving them is because they are wrong, and because they know they are absolutely wrong. So they are not in control. In fact, I think these people are shaking in their boots.
Well, just to clarify, I don't mean necessarily...
The worst thing that can happen in the world is that the world can wake up and understand, and that understand that all it needs to do is shove these banker bastards out of the picture.
Right. Well, just to clarify, I didn't necessarily mean... I should quantify that comment, I suppose, qualify it. I didn't necessarily mean they're precisely in control of what the system that's in place is doing, because that, to be honest, there's a couple of ways of looking at that. You could view it as a headless blunder, or you could view it as a very carefully contrived plan from way, way back. I agree that sounds fishy. But, well, as in, you know, from historically way back. But what again, maybe we might need to have more conversations about some other information that I have, and some of my insights and some of the insights I've received from others. The way the system was set up, what they're doing now, if you will, they're, depending on who you wish to believe, I suppose, but when you look at the evidence around you, for example, all the security grids that are going up all over the world and the way they're militarizing police forces everywhere. I mean, they're doing this in Ireland
That's
too.
what I'm saying. They're afraid.
Absolutely they're afraid. Absolutely they are afraid. And which is why, now, some people don't go with me when I say this, but I say we're going to have to forgive and forget. Start with this mathematically perfected economy, and we're going to have to forgive them, folks. We can't go killing them because we haven't got the right. We're going to have to make sure they can't ever do this again. But what they're trying to do is they're struggling to control.
You hit the nail on the head there. We can't kill them. In fact, no. Jack Schott, who's been Skyping me a bit here, he's a founder of the European Central Banks movement. He's he and I have discussed that, and you know, he asked me what I was going to do with these guys, and you know, see, I'm sort of you know, on the one hand, if I disappear, you know, it more or less is the proof that I'm right. They're going to kill the guy that's the greatest threat to them.
Somebody just put up a comment. Can we kill them a little bit, please?
Well,
no, sorry.
There's alternatives. You know, there are criminals. You know, but we should discuss this when we're ready to do it. But in effect, let me just put it this way to you: the effects on my own life are enough that if I was as vicious and wicked a person as, say, I would say that I know for sure that George Bush is, for instance, I would kill him in retaliation for this. You know, he could have done mathematically perfected economy, and just actually what's happened to me during his administration. If I was as wicked and vicious as I believe that he is, I would kill him for it. Okay?
Yeah.
But why would I not do that? No, I'm not going to, don't want anybody to think that I'm any goody two-shoes kind of guy, because I'm the wrong kind of guy to hit in the mouth. But I wouldn't do that. And the reason is this. If we turn around and look backwards, while we are in the midst of a need to resolve the most important problems to resolve in all human history, so that finally we can all live at peace and in prosperity with each other, we will be looking at the wrong things. These people are simpletons. They are completely unimportant to us. They are the lowliest scum that ever existed.
Yep.
But we, in just forgetting about that and living above it, will accomplish the best things that humanity can ever accomplish. And I don't care if you make Dick Cheney, crawl around the streets of New York with a leash on his neck naked like he's a dog the rest of his life. I really don't care what you want to do with Dick Cheney. And as far as I'm concerned, I'd let you. Even if I was president, I'd say, okay, now we've taken care of all these things, and all these people are shouting, and they say, yeah, well, now we need to kill all those bastards. And I'd say, okay, well, there they are.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to, we're all sinners.
Precisely. Let he who is without sin.
I don't need to go any further awry than I might have already gone.
I just say something? I think people need to realize, and I'm saying this to all the listeners at the moment. I want you to, just in case it hasn't occurred to anybody, folks, let me just make this absolutely clear. If, for example, everybody was to go and research this and get all the ideas and all the notions clear in their mind, we can do this tomorrow. We don't need to ask anybody. We just have to do it.
That's an absolute fact, and also in reinforcement of that, see, my lifetime experience proves this. As I said earlier, I didn't believe, in most of these presidents of the United States. And what happened to them? I never even heard anything. I never even got my return receipt back from Gerald Ford. I got my receipt back from Jimmy Carter. I never heard a word from him. Somehow it took 6 months for that receipt to get to me. The usual process is just a matter of a few days. I did hear from Ronald Reagan. He thanked me for my ideas. Talk about preposterous.
Well,
George
he never had any, so maybe that's why he recognized an idea.
Well, yeah, it's an idea. Tear down this wall. The thing is, these people, if you look at all of them, their largest, donations come from the financial world, the banking system, the central banking system. They're beholden to these people.
Yep.
And it's not happening. And how do you know it's not happening? Because I'll debate Barack Obama, Prime Minister of Germany, the Queen Mother, anybody, anytime on mathematically solution, monetary solution. There's one, it's simple, it's a done deal. That's all there is to the science. We heard it all tonight. And I'm not trying to say that's a great big thing. It should be a small thing. This is trivia that we should easily dispense with. And why isn't it happening? It's happening because these people who sit in power are so evil. They represent this central banking system. Until we unite and decide this is not going on any further. No, we are not suffering another Great Depression. Nor are we suffering you just pouring money into circulation, accumulating all this debt overheads. In case we ever do prosper to any degree, you'll just raise taxes on us, and we'll never get ahead. There's no way for us to accomplish any but a tiny fraction of the things that we're capable of doing in our life and prospering to that degree. And so, until we all unite and say, hey, I'm paying a house for a house. And that's it. And I'm paying it to the SOB who built it, who's one of us, not you, who produce nothing. These people produce nothing and collect multiples of everything which can't be paid. It's like,
you can only say it so many times. Folks, it's impossible. It's not a little bit impossible. It's absolutely impossible.
It's actually impossible from day one.
Yeah, it's like the
You
old
know?
saying, you can't be a little bit pregnant. It's impossible. It can't
Yeah,
be
you
done.
can't pay the first debt with the money that comes into circulation by that debt.
Yeah.
The principal's introduced to circulation, and you're obligated to pay the principal and all the interest on that principal out of circulation, and in so doing, you're going to accumulate all the further debt. And in all that further debt you're accumulating, you're multiplying all that debt all the further also. And all it means is you're paying 4 houses for the first house, and then when you buy that house again, you're paying for its artificially inflated cost, however many times further,
Sure.
and that multiplied all the further by all the further interest that you're going to pay on that debt.
There are
And every
houses-
time you occupy and it just goes on and on and on until there's too much debt, because the debt multiplies in proportion to the circulation.
Well,
It's
look at it this way.
multiplying in proportion
There are
to
houses-
the capacity to pay, and
Exactly.
that's why it's inevitably terminal.
There are houses in Ireland, Mike, 350 years old, and people
Yeah, I
are
know.
still paying for them. 350 years, folks. Think about
You
that.
didn't have
a
to
house
tell
that
me
was
that.
built 350.
All you had to tell me is there's a banking system.
No, but I mean, people really need to think that through. A house that was built 350 years ago. Somebody is still paying for that now, and probably
Right.
paying through the nose. I mean,
Yep.
think about it. The guy who built the house, he's dead. He's probably dead
Yeah,
300 years.
and another thing to think about is in this example, I give a $100,000 house with a 100-year lifespan. Well, suppose, like over there in Ireland, many of your houses are built of stone, and they're capable of, lifespans of hundreds of years.
Sure.
So let's just say we build that $100,000 house with instead of a 100-year lifespan. Let's just to make the math easy, give it a 1,000-year lifespan. It's still a $100,000 house. What are the payments? $8.33 a month.
Yep.
I mean, you could probably find that crawling around in your gutters in your hands and knees if
it's loose change.
if you wanted to. That could be a reasonable way of owning a house. And that's the differences. The banks, they aren't even really interested in enduring creditworthiness. What they're interested in is how much can you pay. So, so they've got some guy on the one hand who's tied to the purse strings of the bank, who's making a fortune and multiplying the fortune, and he's buying real estate, and he's charged. So,